everyone, my name's Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Well, it's a very rainy Monday. It's probably going to be a very rainy week, but we are back at it getting work done on the Enterprise E project, and we are in Putty World right now. Now, I was going to wait a little bit before I did a little bit of a video update, but there are a couple things that I do want to show you that are being done that I think you might find interesting. We're working on getting those pylons melded into the hull so that looks seamless and nice and smooth. Also, some additional work done on the underbelly to get everything worked in. There are some areas that are missing because the kit, the way that the kit is designed, you have a part that goes into the belly of the ship that holds the stand. Now, we're not using that flimsy system. We're using a much more rigorous system for getting the mount in place, and so there's some plastic areas that need to be filled in, so I want to show that to you. So I'm going to move over to the bench and give you a look at what is going on with the project. Now, I'm really hoping that as things are going well with the putty work, that I'm not going to have to spend a whole ton of time. Hopefully by the end of this week I will have all of the putty work done and I will start masking things off, getting ready for paint. So I'm really optimistic that unless my son decides that he's going to be born early, we should have this project done by the end of the year. So let's get at it. But before we get started, why not take a moment and click the subscribe button, and while you're here, click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. As you can see, I've been doing a fair bit of putty work. So I did end up doing the seam where the secondary hull meets the saucer. It's just very delicately puttied. I still want there to be kind of an indication that there could be a separation plane there. Work's been done around the deflector dish. This phaser strip is really badly done in this kit, and so it really needed to be puttied in for it to look like it actually belongs there. Seam work has been done on both nacelles. That's not done. There's still going to be work to be done there, but the first round is done. I've done all around here, and then there's work that's been done on the nacelles. But what I want to show you first, really, is this section here. Now, the way that the part for the stand from the kit is designed is that there's a little piece of plastic that goes in here with a recessed part for the kit post, and the plastic piece fills in these areas. Now, if you use the kit part, it will still need a good chunk of refining because it's not the greatest part. But because I've done my own mount, I needed to fill this in. So I took a die cutter, a circular die cutter that was the right size, and cut the round shape in the plastic, trimmed it off to the right size, and got these inserted here. So that just brings it back up to the level of everything else here. It might just need a little bit of putty just to make sure that it looks like one consistent line. Obviously, there's the SMD for the underbelly flasher. And a little bit of work done here just to get this tractor beam part looking like it is melded into the rest of the ship. The second thing I want you to see is the pylon. I've been working on getting this pylon to seamlessly merge in with the secondary hull. So between the putty work and filing and sanding, this one is almost there. It needs a little bit more putty here just to bring this down a little bit here. You can see the difference on the starboard side, where even if the kit part did sit flush against the hull, it wouldn't be refined to my liking. The fact that the kit part doesn't go all the way in just means it needs a little bit more refining. So I started a little bit here, but I haven't really done a ton. So you can really see the difference where this one slopes right into the hull. This one doesn't. So that's going to be what I'm working on now. Coming on over to the painting area, and I've had to put up a black background just to assist the camera in focusing a little bit. I am hand holding the camera so I can give you a good look around this thing. Last time you saw it, I was working on the putty work. Specifically, I was working on the areas where those pylons join up with the engineering hull, and I think I've got them pretty well.
And I've gone over this thing. I've dealt with most of the little minute putty work that's needed to be done. Anything that's remaining, you won't see once the base coat color is on, or at least I'm pretty sure that everything is to the point where you will not see it with the base coat color on. So I am now at a point where I'm about ready to put the base coat onto this thing. Now, I won't be doing the bottom of the ship right away. I'm going to start base coating the top of the ship. And the reason for that is that I did have to shoot a little bit of primer on the cowling of the deflector dish earlier today, and I really want that to have a good chance to dry. So it's going to sit, but I'm going to get first coat onto the top of the ship tonight. Now, if you're going to ask me what were the most difficult areas to putty, those would have been where the nacelles match up to the engineering section and the cowling on the deflector dish. Those would be the most difficult areas. Now, in this lighting, the coloring kind of looks cool, but in person, it's much more of a dark gray. So I also ran out of the primer I like to use, and I had to grab some other stuff because the shop was out. So hopefully I don't run into any issues because I'm using a primer I don't normally use. It shouldn't be a problem. Here's hoping. So yeah, all the putty work is done. It is primed, and I am excited to get base coat down on this thing. And then it's going to be a lot of fiddly detail painting work where I'm going to be having to hand mask off everything because there is no paint mask set for how my client wants this thing to be painted. So I'm really excited to be moving on to the base coat stage.
Here we are. She's got her full base color coat on. Now, it's fully done, top, bottom, and I had to actually go over it again in a few areas just to get it done properly. But it's looking really nice. Those windows are looking good. All the seams are looking good, and it's time to move on to detail painting. All right, what you're looking at is not a mistake clip from months ago when the model wasn't together. This is actually a spare saucer I have that the client dropped off when he came to look at the model and talk about what he wanted. So I'm using this as a bit of a test bed for the paint. One, to test the colors. I had done a little bit of testing over on this side here. You can see a little bit of work that was done. But what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to be testing the color and the Aztec application process on this little section here that I've got masked off. There's been a bit of a change of plan, so my client's decided that he now wants the paint scheme from the studio model instead of the post-Nemesis, basically what the ship would have looked like after the Nemesis movie had they done another one, which would have had more of the classic Aztec look along with some of the iridescent colors that the refit would have had. So we're kind of going more traditional first contact E on this. So this has been masked off. This is going to get the light gray going on here, and then on top of that, so a very light coat of the light gray, and then on top of that will be the Tetris pattern Aztec going down, and then that'll get base color over it again. And then once everything gets pulled off, this area doesn't have those hard panel lines like the rest of the areas do. So that's the test case for this. So I'm doing that, one, to test the colors, and two, test the process, just to make sure that it's going to work out okay, because I am hand masking everything on this project. So far, my test is going really, really well. I think I've got the color finalized. It took a couple goes at it just to get the color I want for the Aztec Tetris pieces on this portion here. Now, it's solid color here, but that's going to go away. I'm going to mask off the Tetris pieces, and the only thing you'll see are those in the darker gray, and then it's going to have base coat sprayed over top once again. Now, I've just got some tape in place to mark out where the lifeboat, the escape pods, go, so that I'm not putting Tetris patterns there. Those will come off before I put base coat back over top. So here's the first little test section of the Tetris pattern Aztecing here. So the these are going to be lifted off. Those are just the placeholders for the escape pods, and this will get a coat of base color. Then these masks will be pulled up, and that will bring that nice gray color out in that section. Now, I've just done a quick detailing here, and it's a little bit hard to get context when it's zoomed in so far. So let me bring this out for you a little bit, and we'll make sure that we keep that in focus as much as possible here. And you're starting to get a sense of kind of what that might look like once that base coat is on. I only did half of this section just for time's sake, so I'm going to lay down some base coat, pull up those masks, and see how this thing has turned out. And here's the result of the Aztec test. I think it looks pretty good. I might reconsider the coloring just a little bit. We'll have to see. It might just be a little bit too bold. The contrast between the insignia white and the light gray there. So we'll play around with that a little bit, but I'm really happy with the way that this test has turned out. The only thing I might do a little bit differently when I transfer this over to the actual model is go a little bit narrower on most of these and go a little bit less chunky on them. I mean, they're not chunky. If I back this off so that you see the entire saucer here, you can tell they're not that chunky. But I think just a little bit of refinement might be the way to go. But I consider this to be a successful test. So I started moving on to some detail painting, and the first thing I wanted to get out of the way were the phaser strips because they're just annoying to mask off. Now, this is the bottom, which I did second, and these phaser strips weren't too bad. It did require some really thin masking tape being cut to do it. The ones on the top, however, I've got wire management to look at. They've got a little bit of touch-up left to do because they are not molded very well into the kit, and they are very hard to find a defined edge on. They're not looking too bad, but I really want to get them just a little bit more well defined. But we'll see how that turns out once we get a little bit more of the detail painting. Now, I'm going to move on now to masking out the bottom saucer Aztec. And what I can see from my reference photos is that this layer in here and this layer in here are one pattern. These two rows, this here and this out here, is another. And one is the more bold secondary color, where it's mostly the secondary color with base coat Aztecs, and then in here it's base coat main color with a few secondary color Aztecs. So I'm not sure which I'm going to do first, but I'll do all of one and then all of the other, and then there's various different other patterns going on in here, but I want to start with this section here because I think it's going to be the easiest to work with. Also, I want to do the bottom saucer first, so if I run into any issues, it doesn't it's not as showy as, say, the top saucer. So moving on to masking out the detailed Aztec painting. I've got masks down in this ring, both sides, for the first of the Aztec detail painting. Now, I'm not going to show every single go of masking on camera because that would just take hours of film because there's going to be so much masking to do on this thing. But I just wanted to show you this around here so you get a kind of an idea what it's like doing this Tetris pattern on here. I'll just bring it in here so you can see. And it's really just a random pattern based on what the studio model looks like. And actually, those few panels over on this side, I basically did a direct copy of the studio model because I had a really good look, a really good view on my resource material on what that looks like. So as close to what I could get, that is what's on the studio model. The rest of it, because there just aren't the reference shots of it, basically just had to do in the same style and make it look like it fit. Now, if you're using Aztec decals on this thing, you'll notice that they generally will mirror, they'll create one side, and then in software they'll mirror it, and it'll be exactly the same on the other. That's not what the studio model was like. So it's been deliberately done differently on both sides. And here we are with the results of that Aztec masking work. So all the masks have been pulled, and I'm really happy with just how subtle this outer ring is. A lot of times the decals that people use are way too contrasty for the First Contact studio model version of this ship. It really is a light gray around the edge with the subtle panel detail, so I'm really happy with how this turned out. Now this section here, along with this ring and this ring, are going to be in somewhat the same style as this. It's going to be a little bit darker, just meaning it's going to have a little bit of a heavier coat of this gray on it. So it's the same color, it's just a little bit more fully put on there. This is just a light go of this gray, just to keep it nice and light on here. There is, if I was to zoom in really close, which you're probably viewing this on a screen where this is appearing much larger than it would be in person, but if I zoom in here a little bit for you, let's just see what I can do here. You'll see that some of the edging needs a little bit of work. Some of the spots need a little bit of work. So there is just a wee bit of brush work, touch-up work that needs to be done just to satisfy my own perfectionist tendencies here. But I'm really happy with how that has turned out. So I'm going to move on to doing a whole lot more of the detail work, but I'm not going to show you each and every step. I just wanted to give you this first glimpse at how this is turning out and how the process is going. So that's going to wrap it up for this update on the Enterprise E project. I could get a whole lot more painting done and include that, but I think I'm going to call it here because, one, we are getting very close to Christmas Day. Two, Boxing Day on Christmas. For those of you who don't know what Boxing Day is the day after Christmas. We go into a 28-day lockdown. Also, we are expecting the birth of our son any day between now and January 7th. So, that said, if I don't wrap this up and get a video out to you, you're going to be waiting a while for the next video to come out. So, I'm going to work on getting as much of the detail painting over the Christmas season done as I can, and we'll get that sealed up and work on some of the other stages. So I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you hit the like button. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so yet, why not hit that subscribe button today? You'll make me very happy if you do. I'm Andrew, and this has been Canadian Starships. Have a great day and a great Christmas, everyone.